The language gym is developing every single day. If you knew how much work we're doing with the Chinese developer, Suhao, here in Malaysia, you would understand what's happening. And that's why a lot of us look stressed today. You will see loads of new features. I mean, only in the last few weeks, we added, I don't know how many features, vocab trainer, the audio boxing game, shed loads of the workouts, both reading and listening. The entire listening workout section, about 14 or 15 units so far, created by myself and Dylan, and Ronan is going to do the same with French in a bit, are absolutely new and innovative. We put that together literally in 2 or 3 weeks, Dylan, am I right? Yeah? So, guys, without further ado, promising to you that the language gym is going to double in content while staying only slightly cheaper. When I say slightly, is because unfortunately we will need to pay government tax next year. It's a new thing implemented by Malaysia, but it's even less than your VAT, just to give an idea. So loads of more content, keeping the price the same, added just a slight, I think is, how much is it, Ronan? 12%? How much is it? Something like that, right? Yeah, it's about 12%, so you won't feel it. Whilst we're gonna keep the content growing. I'm gonna now pass the floor to Ronan, who is gonna tell you, I'm sorry, Dylan, who's gonna tell you about all the games. So he's gonna have a run through of all the games, showing you basically how it works, especially for those who are not familiar yet, or they've not used all the functionality to their fullest. After which, Ronan, who's the back-end supreme in a good way, is basically going to show you all the different technicalities that some of you might find hard. Ronan is extremely clear. For the first time today, during the rehearsal, I actually understood how to set up a live game and an assignment. That's how thorough and accurate Ronan and clear Ronan was today. So off you go, Dylan. I'll leave it all up to you now.
Hey, thank you very much, Jan. Okay, so I'm Dylan. I'm the lead Spanish author, and I'm going to talk to you about the different sections of the language gym. And this is particularly interesting just in terms of how they're used, a little bit about the rationale behind each game, why we created them, how you use them. And also, as Jan was saying, in the last month or two, there have been a lot of new developments, a lot of improvements. So I'll talk you through what's changed, what's new, and how you can use it. So the first feature is the verb trainer. The verb trainer actually is an original feature. It was there in Jan's original language gym. You've got two different modes, normal and rather timed and not timed. You can select time limits here. You can choose whether you want to play in a random order or a normal order once you've chosen the content. So if it was present or preterite, you choose these two. Choose which pronoun you want, and then you can either choose some predefined settings or manually choose the verbs. So let's go for all regular verbs. And then in the verb trainer, the student will see this. So they've got the verb, which is ayudar, which is to help, and they know that it's in the present tense because it tells them up here. And they also know that they have to produce the translation of I help. So as soon as they type in yo, ayudo, then it's correct, and they can go on to the next one. And this actually was an original game, but what's new is the translation. The translation is new to the new version of Language Gym, and it's really helpful because before I found that sometimes students were doing a lot of verb training and they could conjugate very well, but they sometimes missed the link between what they were conjugating and the meaning, and the translation helps with that. I've seen it in my own students, the ones that do regular verb training, that win all of the live games. When they have to write an essay in timed conditions without any support, they do really, really well. It's a strong correlation between success and the verb trainer. The next section, the workouts, is probably the biggest and best section. It's another original section of the Language Gym. In the Spanish, we've got a big listening modules section. I won't walk you through every single thing that's inside them because there's too much, but I will show you one new feature first of all, which is this search bar. So in the search bar, if you type in daily routine, which as you saw was there already, and search, then you can immediately see all of the different sections for daily routine. You can see the ones that are in the vocabulary modules, the ones that are in the reading modules, and also there's some in the listening, and also you can see, this one hasn't been finished yet, excuse me. You can see the whether they're intermediate, higher, pre-intermediate, so you can see the level, and you can access them directly from here by clicking Start Lesson. Once you identify which section you want to use, you can, sorry, I'm just letting people in. Once you identify which section you want to use, and Ronan will talk you through how to set assignments and all of that, all those functions, but I'll just mention it now as well. You can actually add assignments directly. If you identify which workout you want to use, you can directly assign it via this panel over here. Jan, can you just talk for, like, please, just 1 minute, and I'll time you, about the sequence from the first match-up exercise until you get to the final units where they're actually producing language, a little bit about the rationale from 1 to 19.
Absolutely. So that every workout, be it reading workouts, listening workout, or vocabulary workouts, they're all rooted in research, cognitive research, more specifically in skill theory. The whole idea of the sequence is that it starts from a receptive phase. If you're familiar with my Marzia's approach, you'll understand exactly what I mean, whereby the students are bombarded literally with numerous occurrences of the same chunks. By chunks, I mean combination multi-word units, and these multi-word units are recycled and recycled and recycled through a number of activities which involve dual coding, so imagery and words, involves jumbling up sentences, which means working on word order, what in psychology we call positional processing, work on spelling, work, in other words, try and hit the word and try to engage working memory through all different levels of processing so that the brain has a number of multiple entries for whatever input you're trying to embed in the student's cognition. Very important. We use what we call deep processing techniques. In other words, it's not just shallow processing, repeating aloud, but engaging the brain in semantic analysis like categorizing, like understanding definition games, like matching meaning with the target language form. So in other words, there are plenty of opportunities for extensive recycling at different levels of processing, engaging the brain in a deep cognitive investment. And the reason why you see so many activities, actually, this is quite a relatively short unit. Normally you find 25 to 30 activities per sequence. You will get the students at the end, that's a feedback we got from all over the world, that the students actually feel that it sticks in the end. And if you look at the listening workouts in particular, but also the reading workouts, you'll find the sequence that I call PIPO, PIPO, which is a swear word in French, which means basically first a lot of pre-teaching, then loads of exploitation of the input, whether it is a text, oral or written, then a lot of consolidation of the content of those texts, and finally, that's the end of each and every activity, you have pushed output. In other words, the students have to translate, they have to produce more actively, not just receptively, but productively, what has been planted into their heads through masses and masses and masses of encounters with the target inputs.
Thank you, Jan. Very, very informative. So yeah, so to summarize in a very small nutshell, starting from different forms of receptive processing, working towards more independent pushed output. But as Jan says, the feedback about the workouts is fantastic in terms of going through that process, going through that sort of pedagogical academic process. Students come out of it really knowing their stuff. Okay, so the next section to talk about is the boxing game. And inside the boxing game, there's, again, a wide variety of topics. Actually, I'll say one more thing about the workouts, and what really makes the workout special is partly that sequence of starting with kind of simple matchups and simple receptive processing and going all the way to the independent work. What makes them really special is the fact that they're all tailor-made, custom-made. There's a lot of content in there, but it's all handmade by Gianfranco and Ronan and myself. And there's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of time that goes into making them. And that's why I think, because it's handmade compared to just computer generated, that sort of makes them really special. With the boxing
One
game,
more thing, Dylan, let me say one more thing, which is very important. You might see a lot of levels and you might think, what the hell are they? I get that question all the time. Well, the reason why we have created all those levels is because very often the same material is expanded and complexified as you go along. So it will start with very basic chunks in primary, then beginner, gets a little bit more complex, pre-intermediate, and increasingly more challenging. Why that? Because we want to make sure that if you have a class with year 10s or year 11s or year 9s where you have grade 1 to 9, you can literally find the same topics across the whole range, which means that you can differentiate. It's why we put so much work into it.
Yeah, it's really, really handy if you've got a weaker student at GCSE and if you're revising a daily routine or talking about home life, you can actually just send them down to pre-intermediate or intermediate, and they can build back up to the higher because the content builds on each other. So the idea behind the boxing game, I'll show you just one. Let's have a look at an advanced one about climate change. Okay, you thought I was going to go for beginner animals, but no, here we are. So the idea behind the boxing game is word and chunk recognition, and it's based on the theory that in order to be successful linguists and to be able to cope with language, we need to have a very fast reading speed. It's suggested that the reading speed needs to be between 200 and 300 words per minute in order to be able to cope with language at a fluent level. Obviously, our end goal is fluency, and that's how this game works. So you see the input up here, and you need to read fast, C level, rises, and so on. So you keep playing this game, and it's a fun game. It's one of the original games that was created on the language gym, and it's available in every different possible topic. And linked to the boxing game is the same as the boxing game, so the same content which you can play, but instead of being, let's go to the beginner animals or anything, this one. Okay, so this one.
Tengo el pelo rubio.
Tengo el pelo rubio.
Tengo los ojos marrones. Tengo el pelo pelirrojo. Tengo el pelo gris.
And so on. So it's the same principle, but instead of reading it, you're listening to it. So it's just another way of building processing speed. And this game is really fun. My 3-year-old and my 7-year-old play it together. So they both listen, and he hears and he shouts because he can't read because he's 3. And so my daughter presses the buttons for him. So she's his eyes. He's like the ears and she's the eyes. And it's a really fun game. I don't know why it's so fun, but it's really fun. Then the next section, I'm going to jump across to the vocab trainer. The vocab trainer is, again, based on the same content as the boxing game and audio boxing game. And the vocab trainer gives you the opportunity. I should have really thought which section to look at. Let's have a look at this one. The vocab trainer gives you different activities, again, based on the same language. So you can click on presentation and you can see all of the language inside the unit just at a glance. And this is really helpful because one thing that people asked us for was what is inside the boxing games. Unless the teacher played the boxing game, they didn't know what was inside. People asked us for glossaries. And here it is. Here is the glossary. You can click print, which I'm not going to do right now, and it shows you a print screen, which is perfectly formatted. You can print out this glossary for students. They can have it in their book at the start of the unit if you want.
Dylan, can I just butt in quickly? If you go back to the presentation bit, to the sheet, we want to stress this very important concept. I know you may be familiar with my work, but the idea is that we go for chunks. This is not a child who's going to learn blanco, gris, azul. They actually come out of the game with a sentence that they can actually say, which is empowering because they're not just going to say an adjective, they're actually able to form sentences. And by the sheer exposure that Dylan is going to show you, they're going to get to the games, it means that the child will go out being able to describe animals or classroom objects in perfect Spanish.
Exactamente. Thank you, Jan. So yeah, that's exactly the idea. We would never teach just blanco on its own out of context. The very, very least you'd have is es blanco, and even that is we try and avoid. We can have a whole sentence or a whole phrase so you can see it, and it's to do with, I'll speak about collocations and collocations in a little bit. So the next activity is the self-study, and this is really handy, especially now for online teaching. Ronan and myself have been online teaching for nearly the whole year. We've had a total of 5 or 6 weeks at school, and the rest of the year since February we've been online. So this self-study, students can see the chunk and they can see the translation. Up here, please note there's an auto speech Spanish and English toggle that you can put on and off. The English one isn't useful unless you have EAL students. If you have EAL students that might not know how to pronounce something in Spanish or English, then it's super useful. But you can hear
Mi perro es blanco. Mi perro es blanco. Mi gato es aburrido.
And this is really handy because in terms of Jan's Mars ears approach, the modeling phase at the beginning, particularly in a context, if you're on Zoom, if you're doing online learning, if you want students to do some practice independently, this is really helpful. The self-study section. I find, I'll talk you through each of them, but it really amazes me that my own students, when I have a look at the score reports, which Ronan will give you a walkthrough in a second, when I look at the score report, I find that different students spend longer on different sections. They all end up being able to do it by the end, but I had one really high ability girl that spent nearly 10 minutes just on the self-study, then went directly to translation, and different other students that kind of went along the sequence, and they both made it in the end. But I guess that just shows that it kind of caters for different learning styles.
Personalized, yeah.
The second activity, matchup, is just a left to right matchup. Mi perro es blanco aquí, mi gato es aburrido aquí. So it's very late at night, I cannot see the screen. And then you get a time at the end, we've finished. And then you can either start over and repeat the section, or you can go to the next level, which will have more choices, or back to the menu. Next section is the tiles. And the tiles is just a memory game. You can also toggle, no, please don't go there. You can also toggle the Spanish and English voice for the tiles. A ver aquí, conejo es adorable. No, mi panda es blanco y negro. Okay, this is not my lucky day. Okay, but you get the idea with the matching tiles. It's a memory game, and students vouch for the effectiveness of this because I guess they're having to memorize stuff as they go. The next activity after the tiles is the gap fill race for a grand prize. If anyone can guess what this word is, very challenge for you there. Over here, you've got different sections. You've got, well, different settings, either 5, 8, or 10 sets, and you can set it to missing vowels, consonants, or letters, and work English to Spanish or Spanish to English. Whatever the students choose to do, later on in the score reports that Ronan will show you, you can see whether they've been working English to Spanish or Spanish to English, and you can also see how long it's taken them to complete the gap fill race, all of the activities on the vocab trainer. You can see how long it's taken them and how successful they've been when completing. So in terms of getting data and tracking students, it's amazing. Okay, I'm going to try an English to Spanish very quickly. My panda is black and white. So just type in mi panda es blanco. When you get to a given space, you type in the correct letter if you know the answer. If you type in a wrong letter, it won't let you proceed until you type in the correct letter. Negro. Así. Vale, and this is the gap fill race. I guess we called it a race to make it more exciting, but it's not really a race. It's just a timed activity. Although at the end, they do get a record of their time, which they're going to try and beat. Okay, and the second last game, Beat the Robots. I'm going to go straight. You've got either easy, medium, or hard. I'm going to go to hard. And what you need to do is type in the answers. Mi pez es, hermoso, like this. And the computer types in the missing letters at a speed of 1 letter per second. So the challenge is to type it in before the computer does. And if you do, then you get a score and you've officially beaten the robot. And this creates a really big buzz. This is really exciting to try and beat the robot. And I often get different students saying, oh, I was 1 second away from beating the robot. And you really feel the indignation when the robot beats them. And it kind of encourages them to go again. And finally is the translation mode. The two settings are practice or test. In the practice mode, and you can also choose to have all questions or a random 10 questions from the set. In the practice mode, mi loro es amarillo. If the student gets the right answer, then it comes out as green, but mi gato, es, I'm doing the wrong thing. My cat is bo. If I type in like this, if it's wrong, you get instant feedback as to what the answer should have been. So this is in the practice mode. And also, if a student is stuck, if they're trying different things and it's not working out, if they're stuck, there's a button up here. Show me the answer, please. And then they can see what the answer should be. So if they're stuck here, they go, oh, okay, I get it. And then they can keep going. When they get to the end, nothing happens. Nothing at all. They just have gotten to the end and they can go back to the menu. This is only for practice, but there's the other mode, which is the test mode. In the test mode, my dog is, I actually don't know, is it cute? We'll find out, or adorable. But if you'd obviously spent 10 minutes going through it, you would know. Once you get to the end, you hit submit for checking and you can see that you scored 1 out of 15 and you spent 14 seconds and then you get that data. So these are the different sections of the vocab trainer. And that's it. If you've got more questions about it later on, we can talk about it. But ideally, you kind of start from the presentation, self-study, and then work your way towards the end. Anything else, Jan? Any 30-second extra?
Yes, in the greater context of the language gym, this section was really the icing on the cake, the one thing that actually was missing, because the idea is in the Mars-EAS framework, as you might know, that the end phase is the phase where you work on routinization, automatization. This is based on the work of Paul Nation, of Jean Wood, John Segalovitz. There's loads of research carried out in the last 30 years or so, where the focus is on automatization as the way we render our students fluent. So if I were to use this, I will start with the workouts. Why? Because the students have time to grapple with the text, with the activities, with retrieval practice without any time pressure. I would then move on to the rock climbing game, which Dylan is going to show you in a bit. He purposely missed out in a second because he wanted me to talk about vocab trainer. Then when the students have actually had the time to work without particular time pressure, bang, you go in with the boxing game, the audio boxing game, and the vocab trainer to get them to actually retrieve under time constraints, because that's what develops fluency and automaticity. Instant feedback is the key, but also, as we said earlier, a super important component of fluency is the ability to chunk. You'll find that in the vocab trainer, boxing game, rock climbing game, and workouts, the idea is try to make language look like a game of Lego blocks, putting Lego blocks together. That's what the students enjoy, and that's the way we acquire languages in our native language. Back to you, Dylan.
Thank you, Jan. So the last section that I'll just quickly mention is the rock climbing. This is another original section that's existed since the beginning. And this one, again, all of the sections have a search button. So you can search for a daily routine and go there. Okay, and this game, again, like Jan said, Jan mentioned Lego, and that's really relevant for this. So this game, it comes from the idea that students want to identify key patterns and get really good at seeing how the language links together. How we talk about links, we can talk about collocations and colligations if you've seen enough of Jan's workshops. But ultimately, students need to know that in the morning should be por la mañana. But there's links, which are really good. You want to know por la mañana, but you also want to have a high attention for detail, for accuracy. So if a student hits this one, if they're going too quick, but not reading carefully, this is what happens. Ah! And the person falls down to their death. So here, once, if the student falls, then the words shuffle again. So the por is here, the la is here now, por la mañana, me despierto a las 6, don't get it wrong, high pressure here, 6. We'll go to the next one. Okay, so that's the rock climbing game. That's a big favorite with the students. Jan and I were loving this this tweet the other day, Jan, where a teacher left the class and then the students all plotted to press the wrong answer simultaneously. So 30 students all went at the same time as she was walking back in, which is a classic prank. I hope your students don't do it to you. But yeah, the rock climbers, big favorite with our students as well. So those are the 6 games, and we'll take questions about how you use them, when you use them at the end. But I'm going to hand over to Ronan. I'm going to unshare my screen, and then Ronan is going to talk you through the teacher panel. Okay, Ronan, over to you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Cheers. I can't currently share, deal. You'll have to go to the security setting.
I think you passed it on to me.
Sorry, Ronan, I fixed it now. I fixed it. Sorry, we only use Zoom 12 hours a day. You'd think we could do this. Okay, try now, Ronan.
Cool, cool. Just give me a sec. All right. Okay, guys. So should I have it now? Hi, everyone. So I'm Ronan, as you've heard, and I'm the French lead for TLG, for the language gym. And so today I'm going to show you how we use basically all the activities that have been presented to you in the classroom in a practical way. And so in front of you, you've got my dashboard, okay? And you can see this is pretty colorful. Some of you will be familiar with this because you obviously already use the website. And for the purpose of this activity, I'm actually going to show you how to create a classroom. I'm going to invite, hopefully I'll have a few people, but I'd like you to take part as well. And I'd like to invite you actually to one of the classrooms. I'm going to set up a game and basically show you a live game, the leaderboard and that sort of stuff. So how to create a classroom. Once you've got basically your account set up by the admin at your school, you'll be able to start creating classroom. And the first thing you'll have to do, as you can see here in the drop-down menu, is to choose a subject. Okay, and so I'm going to call this TLG Zoom session. Okay, I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to go for teal. And so that's my classroom created. We've had customers asking us whether they could have more than one language within the same classroom, and unfortunately that's not possible. So if you teach the same group of students exactly for various languages, then you'll have to basically create separate classrooms. So the next step is, once you've created your classroom, it's a little bit like Google Classroom, if you like, as a system. You need to click on invitation code. Okay, so here I've got my invitation code for the students, and you can see here in yellow the instructions basically for people to log in. And so some of the issues people experienced at the start are to do with the server. And so basically, if you're based in the UK, you'll be on the UK server. We are obviously in Asia, so Singapore is geographically closer to us. So we're on the Singapore server. So if you'd like to join this classroom, I think Dylan has shared the classroom code and the URL for the Singapore server in the chat. Please join in. I'll show you basically the screen you should get. If you want to log in, you need to just click here on the login button. You go new student, and you'll have to enter your name, your email, and then you'll have to enter a password there. So it'd be great if some of you could, yeah, so I've got Sandrine is in. That's great. I'm gonna wait for a bit to try and get a few more people. While waiting, I'm gonna show you another feature. And so I'm sure some of you teach or team teach the same student, but obviously with various teachers. And so now that I've created my classroom, I can actually click here on this icon, and I can go into manage co-teachers. And here I'm going to have basically the list of teachers within my organization. I'm going to invite Dale to this particular class. And he is got now basically access to all the resources and to this this particular class. Okay, so if I go back into manage classes now, you can see that this class is right here. Okay, so next step now, let me check my list of students. Yes, okay, awesome. So I've got quite a few people.
Wow, great.
This is really good. So obviously I can see people are familiar with that, which is amazing. So the next step is, you can see here at the top, I can actually create a variety of different things. So we've got live games, and that's what I'm going to do now. And that's the really exciting, fun bit that you can do for a starter, for a plenary, whenever you feel the students, you know, are really full of energy, or you want them to really engage with the learning from the start. So I'm going to go boxing game, beginner, and we're going to go for, let's go for hair and eyes, for example. So the next. So once I've done that, I've got a choice here, as you can see, of timing. I'm just going to keep it short and sweet today for the purpose of this exercise. I'm going to go save. Okay. Now, just a little tip in terms of organization. You can see here that I've got the title of my activity. What I do whenever I set or whenever I plan my lessons, especially now that we're online at the moment and we don't really get to see our students face to face, is I'm going to copy and paste this directly onto my Google Classroom. And so whenever I send a lesson plan to my students for the following day, I'm basically going to have my starter activity and my activities order in a particular way. I'm going to copy and paste it, and my students know exactly what to do when. So at the moment, some of them are experiencing connection issues, for example. And so basically at all time in the lesson, they know what to do, where to go. So that keeps it really, really clear for everyone. Okay, so that's just a little tip in terms of organization. So once that's done, I'm going to click on start, and I'm going to basically click on dashboard here, and we're on. The game is on, and so yeah, let's see how we get on. Let's see how we do. So as you can see, we've got a tune in the background. Kids love it, some of them clap to it, they'll be whistling. They absolutely love the tune. If I want to talk, like I am right now, I can actually switch it off. This is actually very useful when you're online and one of the students can't, for a particular reason, get onto the game, and you just want to talk, you can actually switch it off at all times. So Dylan has joined in as well, very competitive on the top spot right there. That's good stuff. And so we got 1 minute to go, guys. Good luck to everyone. So generally what I'll do is obviously here, I've got a podium, and I will be allocating merits to the students from the top 3. It could be your top 1, whichever system you've got in place at school. But obviously the reward element really drives the motivation as well, in classes and in learning in general. So that's a pretty cool thing to do. Normally on this screen, you will only get your top 10, okay? Top 10 students. You can see basically the rest of the class only if you click on that blue button here, the toggle. And what this does is, you might not want to basically show students at the bottom, on the big screen at the front. And so you can just keep that top 10, at the front of the class. So this is it. We've got our podium with Mike, Dylan, and Dina. So well done, guys. Well done to everyone for joining in. Thanks.
I think we have to run a anti-doping test on Mike here.
Sorry.
We need to run an anti-doping test on Mike.
Yeah, that was pretty good skills. Pretty quick. So that's basically the live game. Okay. What I'm going to show you. Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Can you go back to the scoreboard and can you show the
score report?
Green and black people on the right on the leaderboard?
Oh, hang on.
To see
leaderboard is gone now, Deal.
But if you can go back to the leaderboard. If you close the score reports, you can reopen it.
Right.
On the dashboard.
Dashboard, yeah. It's going to restart the game from scratch. Oh yeah, there it was. Sorry, dear. What did you want to see on that?
Sorry, Rose. Some people were asking, how do you know who's joined the game or not? And just could you talk to them about...
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, forgot to mention that. So, cool thing is, once you've got your list of students in the class, okay, they all appear at any time. Every time you've got an activity, they all appear here as a list. This is your full class. People who are basically taking part in the activity actually feature in green here. So you can see that Sandrine is on, she's in green, Georgina is in green. This is great when you're online because of course we don't see the kids face to face. Whenever you've got someone in green, you know that they are taking part in the activity straight away. Some of them might be a bit slow, some of them they don't want to do it and they're basically playing video games at the same time. That actually is a great way to actually keep an eye on things and keep people in line as well in your classes. So quite powerful tool really in terms of knowing who's managed to log in and take part in the game and who's not. On top of that, I was just showing you that there's also a final score report for the game. That's going to give me the accuracy, total attempts, the time spent. So I can tell, yeah, Mike's obviously done really well. He's got 100%. This at a time like now with COVID is actually very valuable information to sort of track your students' progress and see how everyone's doing, you know, when we can't actually see them face to face and have the regular sort of test that we would normally do. So that's just the live game. I'm going to move on now to assignments. And so assignments pretty much work exactly on the same model. I'm just going to create assignment. They work for me personally. I'll be using usually workouts for my assignments. And you've seen earlier on that we've got, obviously, we can work on various skills here. Sec, that's frozen for some reason. I'm going to choose a reading. And let's go for a pre-intermediate, for example, on food and drinks. And you've got here the choice to select just if you want a few activities, if you like, or to select all. And once you create the assignment, it now features in the classroom. What I tend to do is I'll be, for example, spending 10-15 minutes on a particular assignment in class. Most of the time, we don't have time to finish it in the lesson, but I will be setting the rest for homework. This is recent, but we've just introduced a new bookmark system, which means that the students have completed half of it. They're going to go back to it in their own time from home, and actually they get a resume activity button, and they can actually finish it. Again, here you're going to have your score report. You know who's done their homework, who hasn't, how much time they've spent. So it's quite data rich, really. And of course, here I've got my list of students. So I have actually a few people who've joined afterwards. So that obviously informs me on who I've got in which class. If you need to reset a password, so you've got a student who forgot their password, they can't log in anymore, you just have to click reset password here, and the default. So whenever you do that as a teacher, it's going to reset it as password as a default, and then the students will have to recreate their own password. If, for example, you've had students moving on, or you know, they're not in the class anymore for some reason, you can remove them from your classroom here. A system we've introduced now as well is within a school like ours, for example. Of course, we use the language in for French, but also for Spanish. If I remove students from my French class and he's in Dylan's Spanish class, it will remain in Dylan's Spanish class. When Dylan deletes that student from his class, if that's the last class, then the students doesn't feature anymore in your total list of students. And that is important, for example, from when you move on from one academic year to the next, just to keep your student numbers fairly accurate. If not, student numbers can get out of control pretty quick. And so that's the sort of smart way we found around that particular sort of issue or potential issue. Right, so score reports, I've mentioned them, and this is something fairly new now as well. They are actually different for every activity. And so they are tailor-made per activity. So we've got here at the top, you can see this is a vocabulary module. And again, of course, you can see the accuracy. There's a score basically out of 361, which is the total number of question. You can see the total attempts, correct attempts, wrong answer. So again, this is pretty data rich. That's the vocabulary modules. Then you've got the reading modules on the similar model. You can see here that there's kind of a salmon color in the background of my activity. And that's because the activity after 2 weeks will basically won't be live anymore. And so whenever this happens, that color tells you that the activity after 2 weeks is not live anymore. And so the students get used to that as well pretty quick. You've got the score report for the vocab trainer. So this is what Dylan was telling you about earlier on. So again, this is so detailed. You've got the amount of time they've spent on the presentation. Some of our students tend to skip that bit, and unfortunately, you know, it's so important that obviously they just want to jump on the games and so on. And so that actually is great information to sort of give individual feedback to your students as well. So again, super rich in terms of data. This is the boxing speech, a little bit more simple, but obviously gives you the information you need to know there. And so that's the score reports. I'm now going to move on to, so yeah, I've mentioned assignments. Traditionally, when I set an assignment, I don't tend to actually include a due date, but this is, of course, a function similar to Google Classroom that you can actually use as well. So I'm going to select all, create assignment, and you can see here the default is 2 weeks. I tend to always leave it on the default simply because I put all the information for my lesson across on Google Classroom, so I don't really need to. But if you want to customize here the date due, you've got all that flexibility before you save. So again, you know, there's a lot of room for customization as a teacher. I'm now going to show you sort of search function for assignment. Dylan showed that to you earlier on. And so I could literally, actually, you can access it even from the game room. So this is pretty cool. So if you look for an activity, for example, and you just go into the workouts, and you're going to go vocabulary, beginner, describing animals. Yeah. And so, sorry, no, I should have actually used this search. A sec.
Ronan, I was wondering, it's only 7 minutes left. I think
cool.
it'd be nice to give them some time for the, yeah.
Cool. I've got one more thing to show you then, guys, which is the locker room. And it's just in terms of searching for resources, it's like a two-step approach. And so the first thing you need to do is say I'm going to select French higher. I'm going to submit my filters, and that's pretty much going to give me all the resources that are available in the French higher section. Within that, I'm going to select, for example, environment, and that's going to narrow it down. And I've got access to pretty much all the resources available here. I've got a preview so I can see basically what the activity is about before I print. And of course, you've got the download button. You can download and then print, give to your students. So pretty simple, again, approach, but it's that two-step sort of system that you need to be aware of. So I hope this is helpful, guys. And yeah, don't hesitate to ask for tips via the chat room now for the remaining of the session. All right.
Fantastic, guys.
Sorry, if I could just step in for just one quick second. Could you go back to the score reports?
Yeah, of course, deal.
Thanks, buddy.
Score reports.
Yeah, your score reports tab, the one which showed the vocab trainer scores.
Oh, okay. You mean, yeah, all right.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. So I just want to say super quick, with this score reports, there's actually two sections to it. The one that Ronan showed is really, really useful for getting an overview of exactly what a student has completed. So you can see how many times they've completed each activity. But there's also the leaderboards button, the one that's in blue, leaderboards button. If you click on that, that gives you further, more specific, that opens up a window where you can see all, like a big breakdown of exactly the score. So what score they've got on the gap fill race each time they've done it. You get a lot of more detailed information, but this is the overview, but you get even more inside there. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, listen, we haven't got much time, so if you go straight, thank you, Ronan and Dylan. That was absolutely amazing. I've actually learned a lot about it. Now, really, let's get on with the Q&A that I know a lot of you have actually waited for. One question that you already asked, which is super important to us, is about the German. I totally understand you. We hear you. The reason why the German is slightly lagging behind is because, of course, there was nothing in the workouts in the original the original website. When Thomas Weidner, who's our lead author, came on, there was just a few boxing games that I, with my little knowledge, got from my Austrian mother, did very rudimentarily. So be patient. I can guarantee you that the German resources will literally double by February, 100%. If Thomas won't be able to do it, we'll get other people to work with him. But rest assured that by February, German will definitely catch up. It will not be exactly on a par with Spanish and French, of course, because Spanish and French are huge. But I promise you, there'll be more worksheets, will be more workouts, more boxing games, and most importantly, a more balanced presence of German and Italian compared to Spanish and French. This is a promise that we won't break.
Jan,
100%.
Jan, could I just thank you so much for that? Could I just answer? Deanna's mentioning login issues, and we're aware of it. We know that sometimes the login can be hard, even with resetting a password. And we're currently upgrading the login system. Okay, we're putting in an upgraded system, which will be a lot easier, and it won't be reliant on students having to type in a whole email, for example. It'll just be a username and a password, and it'll be a simpler, more robust system. So thanks for bearing with us. But the login system, we recognize that it's not perfect, and we're upgrading it as we speak. So just keep an eye out for the change.
Yeah, just a quick chat, actually, deal on that. What I've actually found with my students is if they share their screen with you, I know it's time consuming, but it's really worth it. Most of the students that I had that couldn't log in properly, whenever I've actually asked them to share their screen with me, there was always something wrong they were doing. And so I know there is the existing member and there's the new student. And so basically I had existing student trying to log on with the code as new students. And of course, it didn't work because obviously the email was already taken. So it's really worth, if you've got that issue, ask the student to share their screen with you, and you can run them through the whole process, and you'll find out that most of the time they are just either in the wrong place or doing something wrong, or they haven't spelled their email properly. But yeah, it's all about troubleshooting and having a look at what they're doing.
Thank you, Ro. I'll just add on to what Ro's saying. Someone said picnic, problem in chair, not in computer. And what I do is, if a student of mine isn't able to log in, what I do is I reset their password, and then I just open an incognito window, and I immediately log in as that student. I just type in their email and the password, which is password, and 100% of the times it just immediately lets me log in. So I know that the account isn't broken. There's not a bug with the account. So, and at that point, then try and give the student more support, such as like Ronan says, sharing screen or doing something else, or telling them really specifically what to do. But yeah, that's a really good trick. I do that every single time. I just log in as a student in an incognito window and then log out straight away. And you know the account is absolutely fine, and then give some more support. The system is robust. The system is very robust. It's just that students make mistakes. So we're looking at upgrading to a system where it's no longer possible for students to make mistakes so easily.
Yes, guys, the only reason that for us to wait is because, of course, some of you are getting accustomed to it. some of you already used to it, of course, and to suddenly revolutionize by introducing the new idea that we have, because the new idea we have would be much easier to implement. But because we have 2,000 schools, imagine 2,000 schools registered on the language gym, to just send a message across to everyone and say, hey, now they go used to the system, abandon it, and do this in the middle of the school year, it's a bit traumatic. So we are actually going to ask you to give us feedback, let us know when is the best time for us to do this. And we promise you that this brilliant idea that Dylan and Ronan together had of improving the login system can be done in a way which is not disruptive. Let me tell you as well, it's very important to remember this. I know that we shouldn't talk money, but you need to compare how much we charge you with other websites who charge £600 per languages. So you need to bear in mind with our resourcing and then the time we have available and all the rest, that it will be done. It will happen. It will suit your needs. Just you need to bear in mind and understand that unfortunately we have 2,000 schools to manage with one customer service person and 4 co-authors. So it's all about making sure that we all synchronize the implementation so that nobody's work get disrupted. Because the minute we say to one school, we're going to change it, the other school will say, hey, we're very happy with the way it's going in our school. So it's difficult to keep all 2,000 schools happy.
Thank you, Jan. A couple of questions are just about Mandarin. The reason that the audio boxing game was developed, in a way, the inspiration for the audio boxing game actually came from wanting to develop Mandarin, because when you have the characters with Mandarin, you have the constant battle between characters, pinyin, English, and the fact that students can't read characters, but teachers don't want the pinyin, and you have this whole eternal conflict. So with the audio boxing game, you get around that by having the inputs coming straight away in actual spoken, like go or yo go, and then they can find the English. And so the audio boxing game was created so that we can actually have the Mandarin. And I've made a couple of test activities and they work very nicely. My daughter is a Mandarin student, so she's the tester. But at the moment we're planning to develop it, but it's coming soon, right, Jan? Yes, it is.
Excellent.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys? Please keep them coming.
Students have to be in a class to do activities. A student can't not be in a class, and the reason that Ronan was saying before is that a school subscription has a certain number of students, and if at the end of the school year teachers don't delete the students, then they're still on the account, and you'd end up with schools having saturated accounts and needing to buy more students' accounts. So the way to get around this is to not have any floating or ghost students that aren't inside a class. So long as a student is inside a class, they can access all the languages and everything on the language gym. But as soon as a teacher either deletes a class or deletes a student from a class, then the student is no longer on the subscription, which means that it's a way of ensuring that only students that are really active are on the subscription, and the school isn't having to pay for students that don't exist.
Brilliant. I saw a very interesting question there, which I get asked a lot during the workshops, which is what level correspond to which level. So the primary level is, of course, primary. We're trying to make it as basic as possible, and we're trying to really sequence the material, which often overlaps with the beginner section, but we made sure that it's quite simple in terms of pronunciation, in terms of length, so to manage the cognitive load. So you find that it's actually easier. The beginner section, usually year 7, but it can also be used in year 5, 6, and 7 if you are teaching, so middle school is perfect. The pre-intermediate could even be year 7, depending if you have a good year 7, but it stretches them to, I would say, year 8. Intermediate would be year 9 to year 11, depending what kind of ability groups you're teaching. higher is definitely GCSE higher. So it's much more challenging. In fact, some of the activities you might even say that they're borderline AS. The rest is, of course, advanced, is, of course, A levels. I would say that the beauty of the workouts is that it literally covers levels 1 to 9 of your GCSE. So you could, if you have a high mixed ability class, you've got all the different levels covered. Mind you, of course, you need to take into consideration the fact that the content might be beginner, but the boxing game is fast. So it depends what you're trying to do there. You need to make sure that you understand that, of course, the rock climbing game, although it is a beginner level, it will be more demanding. So in terms of cognitive load, you will put that at the end of a sequence, as opposed to a boxing game, which is simpler and requires just a matching un gatto blanco with a white cat. So levels are relative also to the task. It depends on how familiar and able and quick you are in terms of retrieval practice. But I would say, I repeat the sequence, I would start with the workouts. First, the vocabulary workouts, ideally, the reading workouts, then the listening workouts. Setting the assignment, of course, means that you can prepare the students for something more complex like boxing game or climbing game in the next lesson, because it means that the students are actually, yes, they're flipping learning, which might be problematic with some classes where you've got students who are a bit lazy or less equipped technologically. But usually with the monitoring system that the score report allows, it means that you can actually monitor what the student doing in a quite tight way. So workouts first, boxing game after. Eventually, I would go in the vocab trainer. By the way, the feedback we got from on the vocab trainer, I'm sure Dylan and Ronan got the same feedback from people from around the world, has been overwhelming, beyond expectations. And we're going to add more games soon to complement the existing ones.
Good question from Nina. Dylan replied, but yes, of course, students have got the freedom to basically access all the resources on the website via the game room. And so, of course, we encourage personal practice. This is something that they'll develop as well and be a little bit more in charge of their learning, maybe after a while, knowing their strengths and weaknesses. And but yes, absolutely, they can access all the resources at any time once they're in.
Guys, any more questions? You can actually unmute yourself if you want to say goodbye. If you have more questions to ask, please do ask them. We are willing to stay a little bit longer.
Nina's question about sending a class a code, not at the moment, but possibly with the upgraded system, that's a possibility.
Guys, of course, we are only at the beginning. We only went live in February. It was funny, there was a competitor earlier on which just disappeared. But we are actually working on improving it. So any suggestion you're going to give us, if you don't want to give it to us now, we'll take it on board. We have done it. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that most of the innovations have actually come from you. Yeah, so you tell us something. Mariana, who's actually Ronan's wife and is a customer service officer, tell us, guys, quite a few people think that we should do this, and we've been implementing it. So the sky's the limit, really, and the more input you give us, like the ones that Nina just gave us, the better it is. So don't be shy and just fire away. What we can do, we will do. It's a promise.
Yeah, sorry, I've confused Nina with my message. The only way to get students to join at the moment is by sharing that class code. So yes, you need to share the class code. What you can't do at the moment is automatically import the students. That's what we'd like to be able to do, or find a way to create a class list or streamline that process. But no, the way that Ronan showed, which is it's not super hard. Create a class, share the code, and students join. That is the only kind of flow at the moment.
Yeah, it's basically the same as Google Classroom. We've had a look actually at the link system, which would be great because you just send a link, students click on it, and then they are actually in the classroom straight away. So yeah, we're constantly improving. This could be an option, you know, if it works. You know.
By the way, let me add that there's a new functionality that's going to happen soon. It's called the book room. Ronan, do you want to tell them more about the book room?
Yeah, so currently, basically, the locker room is a bit cluttered with all the sentence builders from the books. And so the idea, basically, of the book room is any book that we publish as a company, all the sentence builders will feature in there for our customers, but we'll also give for free probably 3 to 4 units of the book to our existing customers.
In digital form.
Yeah, in digital form. And so that's a way to sort of tidy things up a little bit and making resources easily accessible to everyone. I didn't really mention that, but obviously earlier on when I was talking about how I organize myself on Google Classroom and so on, our website obviously ties in very well with the books, and pretty much we only or almost only use our own resources these days, between the books that have been published and the website. We are pretty much almost self-sufficient at the moment, so it's a really good mix. Of course, if you've gone from the method, it makes sense to go for the full package. And we are working. So this is something that's that we've got planned for the next few months, to actually work on sequencing with a mix of the books and the website. And so that will be definitely next level. It means that we pretty much plan the perfect lesson and share it with you as well in that book room. So this will be definitely next level stuff where you've got a pattern that you can follow and apply for pretty much any topics that you want to teach. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. That'll be definitely a game changer.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a great question from Nina Loversic. If following a textbook in terms of vocab, etc., do you think we can match up more or less different topics? It looks like you can basically, mea culpa, I always criticize textbooks, but actually when I created the language gym was exactly because I didn't find the textbook sufficiently good at recycling. So what I did, I created the language gym around Pearson, I won't mention around Pearson textbooks, and expanding the vocabulary, enhancing the choice of lexes. And so you'll find that it matches most current textbook studio, Viva, Mira, and Stimmt, because Weidner, for instance, Thomas Weidner does use Stimmt as a school. It doesn't mean that it plagiarizes Stimmt, absolutely not. It covers at least what's in Stimmt, Viva, at least, and then it builds on it so that you have a wider range of vocab and much more recycling. The question on music could be an interesting one for Dylan. Dylan, there's a question here. Any section of current music and gap exercise translations?
Yeah, Jan, I just wanted to say that the one thing that I love to get is messages from people using the language gym. I get messages often on Twitter and on Facebook, private messages saying, I'm doing such and such a topic, I need this topic. And is it in the language gym? So if there's a topic that isn't there, I say that's not there yet, then just reach out to me if you're following me on Twitter, I can put my handle in the chat if you want in a bit, or just on Facebook, just send me a message. with a topic, if there's even a specific language that you need. If there's not a topic like current music or any other topic, I've done a couple of A-level immigration recently and world of work. But if there's a specific topic that you don't have yet that you would like, please let me know and I'll build it for you. I can even do the exact language that you need. If it's not there, then I can help you build it.
Provided, of course, that it doesn't breach copyright. So we can't get a text from Viva that you send us and put it there. Yeah.
Very similar for French. If there's any topics that you feel are lacking on the website, you can just send a message to our customer service, and we'll work on it. Absolutely no problem.
Brilliant, guys. If you have any more questions, do fire away. You can even ask us a sort of a small chat sort of things, small talk sort of things. I don't really mind. You can ask Ronan what his favorite hobby is. What's your favorite hobby, Ronan?
I'm a mountain biker, so I like cycling quite a lot.
Well, what you don't know is that every Monday, when I used to work with Ronan and Dylan, I used to actually taunt them. I would go into their office and say things like, Ronan, what did you do last weekend? And he would say, oh, I went mountain biking. All right, what was the weather like? And it was kind of raining. And he would keep preparing his lessons and say, all right, who did you go with? I said, oh, with my best friend. Oh, really? Does he have any brothers and sisters? And then he finally understood that I was doing a little GCSE sort of a mock with him. And I did this, I kid you not, for about 7 years. And I always managed to actually get him to do the same thing for about 10, 15 minutes. It was quite hilarious. So to this day, Ronan curses me for that.
The first time I met Jan, I'd been working at school for 3 days, and he walks into my lesson. I'm there with 25 kids who I've never really, I don't know very well. And he says, you guys are lucky. You've got a really good teacher. This Mr. Viñales, he reminds me of me when I was younger. And I'm like, thanks, Jan. He's like, because his biceps are like when I was 12. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Jan. And that's my recollection, my earliest recollection of Gianfranco.
Okay, right, guys. Listen, I love to see you still sticking around, and it's great to recognize names of people who are, always active and proactive on Guild and other Facebook groups. We value the feedback that's coming now from some people about already. Yes, Louise, of course. Ernesto Macaro was actually my supervisor for my PhD and a good friend. I worked with him for 5 years. Then I did a research project at Oxford University with him in 6 comprehensive school in Oxfordshire. And I was his research officer for 2 years. A very good friend. I saw him the other day. He's just retired, unfortunately. A massive contribution to the education world. This guy, a legend, really. He's 70 now, but still dedicating his life to teaching. A legend, absolute legend. Although I don't agree with his approach, of course. You know me, I don't agree with anyone. Yeah, so it's me. So, guys, any more questions at all, or suggestions, or anything? Any questions?
No, well, then, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to stay up with you guys on a Saturday night, and thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for attending. Pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Really, we're going to do more of these as more functionalities and more material is added. So feel free to contact customer service for anything that you need. You're only ruining Ronan's marital life, so who cares? All right, guys. All the best. Take care. Love you all. It would have been great to see more faces, but I understand that if you want to keep it obscure. Take care. All the best. Good night, guys. Lovely to see you. Really, honestly, straight from the heart. Thank you very much. All the best. All the best. Bye bye.